Hello, welcome to another Write Once, Read Many, this time covering Chapter 29.4 from Arc 29, Venom. I'll talk about the art as sort of wait for people to show up. We're seeing the first moment when Taylor is looking down on the cells from the stairway through the broken double doors that are each a foot thick. Rows and rows of cells, and fortunately Taylor was at the head of the group, so we don't get to see any characters, but these things happen. Alright, well, I guess as the song is getting closer to the end, I might just continue as though no one is going to be available right now. As the audience participation reminder, for 29.4, what's your favorite Case 53 design from Worm specifically? For themes, I sort of thought that this kind of harkens back to the horror theming of Arc 26, them creeping through this complex and needing to clear rooms, and the lights are flickering, and they know that there's someone out there with power that they won't be able to, we know there's someone out there with a power they won't be able to sense that they'll have to deal with. So all these things, and then there's the custodian that's like a ghost. Hey Greg. So yeah, there's a lot of sort of horror movie-esque things going on in this chapter. And it's kind of funny the few moments where, because only Taylor can tell that the custodian's there. Everyone's like, she's lost her mind because of a ghost. Anyway, yeah, and I guess moral dilemmas. There's a classic moral dilemma with releasing the prisoners or working with the custodian. And obviously Taylor's here in this facility to work with the baddies. Greg said, at least it's only ghosts and not ghost orbs. Good point. That'd be way scarier if a ghost orb showed up. Hey, Vic. So yeah, the prison complex, very drab. There's stop lines. They observe American stop sign rules. Do not go over the stop sign line. Yeah. Also, I guess it is nice to see the facility and how huge it is in this image. But yeah, I'm gonna hop into sort of talking about the chapter. We get an explanation of what it's like inside the hospital-like hallway that they enter of the complex through the cauldron portal. Um, and it's really damaged and stuff, but Taylor says that we know of how the custodian works, and she's like saying that it's kept clean in places that don't make sense for like they're like out of the way, so she doesn't think it's staged. Um. Anyway, those details aren't super important because they head down into the facility pretty quickly. They're able to talk to Tattletale on the comms, and they have their infiltration group is the same people who were at the previous chapter. It's Taylor, Golem, Cuff, Sophia, Long, Rachel with two dogs, Huntress and Bastard, and Aisha. And throughout this chapter, Aisha is doing this thing that she can do now where she can be masked from people's awareness but still talk to them and have them perceive only her voice. So I probably won't mention it when it's happening, but that does happen a couple times. And so Tattletale's telling them which way to go, etc., as we expect. She's asking them if they want to hear more about the members of the Irregulars. Lung doesn't want to hear it, but Imp does. But then they're interrupted because one of Rachel's dogs alerts them to a room that has dead Case 53 corpses, and they suspect that these 3 Case 53s had been killed by Satyrical's group and then replaced. Yeah. That. Yeah. Then. And this shows the sort of lethality and the quickness to kill of Satyrical's group, which we will see mirrored perfectly by Taylor. The stakes are quite high at this juncture, and she's not messing around with her old timey morality. So at this point, Taylor sort of talks to Shadowstalker and because Shadowstalker's like, "You're thanking the dog," and then she totally burns her, and she says she's thanking people that are being useful, and then she tells her to scout out stuff, and it seems like the lights flicker the moment that Shadowstalker heads into a room, and for a moment Taylor's just like, "Huh, I guess she's been electrocuted." There are a couple times in these chapters, like in the next chapter, it'll happen again, where she's like, "Was Sophia dead? Just like that? Crazy." It's very I don't know, her mindset is very fatalistic in many directions, I guess. And things are happening fast, so she's not wrong to question these things. But yeah, anyway, so with the lights out, Lung uses powers for a second to make a fire, but they're like, that's not great. So Golem and Cuff turn on headlamp things from their helmets, and this is when, in the darkness, with only a flame and two horror movie style headlamps lighting the area, she first senses the ghost. And then the lights flicker back on and then off and on, throughout the scene. But she's calling out to, the void from the other character's perspective. Oh, I forgot to say Canary's here. How could I have forgotten? So easily. But yeah, so this is when she remembers the presence of the custodian at previous Cauldron meetings, and that Tattletale's not able to sense the custodian because not enough information's coming over the camera for something as like intangible as she is to be seen by Tattletale's power. And so only Taylor can confirm, and she's calling out, and she's negotiating with the custodian, talking about Satyrical's faction and how they're untrustworthy, and talking about the Case 53s, and how only Taylor's faction is here to help the Doctor properly and defend the facility and kill Scion. And then as Taylor is not sure whether this plea to the custodian has worked or not, then the custodian moves toward her, and she's like, "Oh, I'm screwed. I've always been hosed in the fights against stranger powers." And she calls out more stuff about how she's pissed off, and the custodian should be pissed too, and she knows that everything hurts. She sings her the song "Everybody Hurts." And then the custodian's suddenly gone, and Taylor's not sure what to think yet. And Aisha's clowning on her. Question is there really a crazy janitor lady? Or is Skitter finally going mad? And then Lung's like, "Move along," and they start going again. Taylor's checking everything with her swarm. I barely even mention stuff like that anymore because she's always doing that. That's like 24/7 for her. And this is where they find some more like doors. They're just corridors and corridors full of doors. So Imp is joking about stuff, and Taylor just cuts her off. She's just like, "No, just calm down. Not right now." And then she does cool it. She doesn't keep pressing. And then basically Taylor thinks that she is or no, this isn't the part that happens. There's a part later where she's like, "You're acting like Regent." But yeah, Tattletale asks if they're still interested on the irregulars, which Imp had forgot entirely. So Tattletale does not brief them on all the details of all the irregulars, which would probably take a long time anyway, because there's like loads and loads of them. And then they find all these old books that were created. Well, no, they have a discussion about Weld while Taylor is ferrying with Bugs these old books about plans for the end of the post-apocalypse end of the world scenario they're in now, and they were written by Accord, and there's like all sorts of like overlapping contingency plans using for different scenarios, so all kinds of things. and it's a bunch of technical jargon for the most part. Uh, and it has some like words that are like become relevant in Ward when we're looking back on this material. But nothing for us now. They put it in front of a camera and flip through slowly enough that Tattletale will be able to read it on camera at a later date, because they're recording this footage, obviously. And then, so they just keep seeing endless hallways as they walk and walk. And then, Tattletale's sort of detailing what some of the plans are for, like, if the Endbringers win, if Scion wins, etc. And then that, Cauldron's overall goal does seem to be keeping humanity, living and surviving. So, like, it does seem as though they're being earnest about their goal, which, as the reader, we kind of know from just being in different people's heads. They're just stupid evil, even though they're trying to be good. And then she details, Telltale, reading us the cliff notes on this, details that Coil had been a test case for trying to have parahumans run society, and then after that had failed, then the Undersiders had been a test case for like the way they had taken over the city, and they were an actual like success story, which they don't like say that in as many words here, but we know. And then there's some more corpses that are found in a room that Shadow Stalker goes into, and then Tattletale says it's Satyr again, killing off more people. And then Shadow Stalker says that Satyr is efficient. And then Taylor says that she gave Shadow Stalker a serious look, but she's wearing the full face mask, so I'm not sure how serious it could look compared to her normal bug face, but whatever. And then, Imp is quipping that her long-delayed revenge on Sophia will be easier since Sophia's acting evil again. And, Taylor cuts her off. She's like, no revenge. You're acting a whole lot like Regent. And Imp fills in the gap and says Regent. And then Imp acknowledges it, and they move on. She's like, all right, I will continue to cool it. And then this is where they find like the super thick doors and walls. Well, I guess it has super thick floors always, but like some of the places kind of have normal rooms and some have like super walls, like the ones to this prison area. And they talk about Tattletale tells her about how this like complex was supposed to be like a hub of operations for like trying to save humanity after the fact if they could defeat whatever the main threat was, like Scion. And then Golem chimes in talking about how this would all fall apart. And he says, "Power fucks everything up, doesn't it?" And then Tattletale tells us that Scion attacked a world called Dalit. They're all named after these specific alphabet set. So we got the Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalit. I don't know what like the order is either though. Earth Shin, Earth Chait, Earth Zayan. I'm running out. I think I'm out. And Greg says the Hebrew alphabet. There we go. Let's see here. So, and Scion's behavior is developing as well, just like before. Getting worse with every attack, a little more ruthless, toying with specific people, breaking them before he obliterates their friends. He's going to hit our settlement again if the pattern holds, within the next half an hour to an hour. And this is where Taylor questions Lung's choice to come with them, and Lung explains that he didn't end up doing anything, which I don't think is actually true. He may have felt that way, which is kind of funny because it just means that he's up in his feelings. But he did occupy Scion's attention for, like, at probably around a minute without getting killed, which, like, how many people can do that? But he says he didn't like being a mere bystander. And we also kind of know that because he had been saving up the charge of, like, trying to have that fast transformation, he maybe can't do that a second time. I think that's the unspoken reason. And so this is when they reach the doors that had been super bursted open that we're looking through here. And they see the prison, and they just sort of explain what you can see on the screen here, that there's all these different rows and columns of cells, and they all have an open face because the people are being kept in by the custodian. And so even though they're at an angle where none of the cells can see them yet, people start calling out that people are here, and then Taylor's like, oh, damn it, I didn't think about it. A bunch of these people probably have thinker powers that allow them to sense us. And so everybody starts calling out different questions to them and all these things, and apparently some people are calling out threats and stuff. So there's all sorts of clashing voices from these prisoners. And then Golem realizes, he says, they think we're here to rescue them. And then Cuff realizes, aren't we? I mean, it's not why we came, but we can't leave without them. We're not heartless. And this is directed at Taylor, and Taylor is social pressure, and goes, yes, of course. But what she means is, I haven't thought about it up to now. I wasn't going to save them, Cuff. Lung says it would cause trouble for them to rescue these people. Shadowstalker wants the chaos of it. And then Taylor, she sort of justifies herself, saying it's just a matter of when we save them, not of if we save them. And what she means is, maybe after we defeat Scion. You guys need to consider. But, she is able to, like, see the scale of which they have prisoners. They've got 2,050 cells, according to Tattletale, in this sort of cell block. Taylor misjudges it and says hundreds of cells. And Tattletale thinks about half of these have an occupant, all with powers. And then, Cuff's like, my God, they're all so pale. They're not being kept in humane conditions, don't have proper sunlight, kept in little boxes. And then Gollum is horrified by this. And Tattletale says that there are more reinforced cells and things further down, and there's probably no escape downwards, so they only needed to be kept in one way. and which is not quite true because the sort of defensive mechanisms mean that you do have to dig downward, but whatever. Um, I think she just means the main stairwells are still accessible to the next few floors down. Um, uh, so she's Tattletale's figuring out more information for them about the what the Case 53s are used for. Um, and then Taylor's thinking like, wow, this is sort of a half-assed plan where they have this many capes, but none of them know how to use their powers. So how are they going to possibly defeat Scion? Like, even if you dump them on a battlefield with Scion, like, what are they going to do? Which is all good questions. These are the types of things I wish we could ask Dr. Mother, but we don't have a scene where Taylor gets to just unabashedly ask that question. Like, what was your plan? Anyway, so Taylor uses her bugs and she calls out for people to be quiet. She convinces them to save their energy and not exhaust themselves. And then it doesn't really work. They get quiet for a second and they come back with their loud voices. Canary's like, I can't really work on them without having my power work on you. And then instead, Rachel uses a non-powered solution to just whistle really, really loud. So loud that it hurts Bastard's ears. And we're reminded he's here with us. And then Lung compliments Rachel, which she doesn't like. She's like, scowl. And then, Lung is saying they have to do something to hit home what they've done. And they don't really do anything like that, but the custodian's floating about, making her presence known. And then Taylor's realizing that the custodian is swooshing at her, telling her which way to go. So she starts, following the directions of the custodian. So they're running away from one area and toward another, but it's because a group is coming through with all the Case 53s and Mantellum and stuff. And so they go to these sort of secluded cells that have actual doors. And then they get into these sort of places where they can't be seen. And then Taylor mounts her helmet camera on the wall so that they can see behind them. And then Tattletale sends them the video from the helmet cam to all their cell phones. So Taylor's able to watch the security cam that she placed. She doesn't have a great vantage point for the camera because of the last minute nature of like putting it up, but she sees all these different Case 53s and then like the deviant cases that are like beyond a standard Case 53. And then we're getting some crazy descriptions, which I'll talk about in like the powers, knowledge, and world building section instead of now. And she suspects they were in like solitary confinement and being held in like super reserve for having like these crazy powers. And then she finds the section where Mantellum is, where her power doesn't work. And then Tattletale also notices her power can't work at viewing him, even remotely. And then Lung's power isn't working because of Mantellum's power blocking it. So it's like their whole group is clouded and stuff. And then Taylor sort of realizes that the power is like a sphere bubble around him. They don't have audio of what's being said. Uh, Also, they had records of how large the Mantellum's power was supposed to be, and he's like far pushed it beyond the limit, 6 times the range or so. Um, and then they realized that they're gonna have to deal with this group because the doctor is gonna be downstairs, and then this group is trapping both the doctor's group, who they're like digging underground toward, and then also Taylor's group from leaving. And then Imp appears near the Case 53s. Like, she doesn't reveal herself, but she's talking to Tattletale and everyone else over the comms. And when Imp does that, then Taylor thinks, Imp, damn it, Gru would kill me. She was close enough to overhear, and with this many parahumans, so many ways she could be detected. Yeah, I think it is like a totally reckless action. Tattletale's like mad at her, but also happy with the results. And yeah, it is just like bananas. Like, you think of how many powers can already override her power with, like, either they can see like the aura of a power like Chevalier can, or like Dragon's cameras, or um some of the other stranger powers seem to not be affected by Aisha. Anyway, it's just so reckless. Um boop 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 boop. And then, luckily, none of them can sense her, or they assume she's part of their group. Who knows? Um, and there's some sort of ringleader of this whole group that Imp calls Mr. Beautiful, who is he has gotten the word out to all the different cells that they're free to leave because the custodian had been holding them in. And it's more like he tells a few people, and once they start leaving their cells, everyone is like cheering and running around. And so then everyone else, in the adjacent cells notices, and it spreads and spreads. And then Shadowstalker realizes that the place that they're in with the slightly nicer conditions is going to be raided to get like the stuff. Lung agrees that they'll come in, and he thinks he can win against literally all of them, but that everyone in the group aside from him would die. And then Imp is still relaying the message. Apparently the Mr. Beautiful is collecting all the people who can bore through solid steel, and having them join the group, trying to, burrow down to where the doctor is. And then Taylor says, Lung's plan can be plan A. Let's hear plan B. Shadowstalker wants to run. And then it doesn't seem like that's going to be a possibility. And they think they'd have to deal with other like security doors, all sorts of stuff. Things are moving really fast outside. The guy leading them all has brought out Weld and the sphere, the ball that holds Sveta. Some would even say, Greg, that would be a ghost orb if they allowed them to have their way with Sveta. It would hold merely a ghost. And they are cruelly torturing Sveta by heating up the sphere she's in with fire. And also this causes Weld to try and, like, reach out to her, but he's all fucked up and mangled, so his, like, arm breaks off and then sort of reattaches to him. Taylor's like, he'd be super, super dead if he had a regular body. And then, Shadowstalker's like, so you guys are hosed, but I'm gonna escape because of my power. So if you want me to tell last words or pass on messages, I can do that. And then people are sort of spreading out, and they see through the camera several people who we sort of recognize. The spiky boy with yellow skin, the one that was called Mr. Beautiful, who's described here as a man with exaggerated masculine and feminine features, a caricature burdened with muscle. And then we see, like, Gully and Sanguine here as well. And Gully's all like, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? I both don't want to have been on the side that died, and also can't leave now. So it's a whole mess for Gully. And then Taylor is sort of sensing out the Mantellum bubble while this is happening. She asks Canary if she's fine with singing, but then Canary points out that her power doesn't work fast enough. They would just kill her off, like, right away. And then Taylor tries to justify, like, maybe Satyr will save us. He's still out there. And then Tattletale's like, yeah, maybe, but he's almost certainly in the process of, like, digging down to find the doctor, and he's doesn't have... He and the doctor's group both don't have a way of dealing with all these people or with Mantellum. And then Taylor pulls out the Nanothorn knife, and she thinks for a moment about, like, cutting their way to freedom through, like, a cell wall or, like, upwards, and then she's like, well, we're deep underground. I can't just cut my way out of here. Lung is saying, Plan A, then. For your sacrifice, I will grant you a favor. Tell me if you want me to kill someone, an enemy you want gone. And then Taylor goes, we're not going to die! And then she starts making swarm decoys, of course. And then she's thinking about, like, trying to get them to chase her upstairs. And then she sees through the camera the sort of, she says, the pretty man, Mr. Beautiful. He says the word revenge. And then there's a mob of people, advancing down all the corridors, and some of them are near, so... I don't know. Wall's closing in. Chapter's over. Pretty crazy. But, yeah. Final chapter thoughts. Another great setup chapter. No real fight, but it gets the whole scenario. We understand the complex. They move through stuff. Good discussions of what's going on. They find there's a chord notes. Yeah, pretty good one overall. And it leads into the next chapter having some really peak Parahumans moments. Also, we get to see all these Case 53 designs, and we'll get to see even more in the next couple chapters. So yeah. Good connecting chapter, really gets us where we need to go. As far as arc stuff, like I say, great at connecting the dots between Taylor's initial plan and when everything goes to hell. Okay, and then For characters, I put one masses of prisoners. They're described as pale and such, and shouting out in different languages, and generally being a unruly mob of different people because of being abused prisoners, and even, I mean, it's not the worst possible prison conditions, but it's pretty bad. They're not in literal solitary confinement, but I don't get the impression that they like get time to leave their cell and like do any of the normal stuff that you could do as like a prisoner if you had like an exercise area, or like uh time where you ate meals or whatever with a general group. Is very, you're just stuck in your sad little cell. It's better than the prison in Andor, but it's worse than most prisons. Um and then it's also a weird prison condition where, like, I would assume if there's any collaboration, then the custodian is constantly listening and punishing them. Um, then I got a character one for this Case 53 that's kind of the leader of the other ones, this Mr. Beautiful. We just get sort of a whips people up into a frenzy, cult fervor type guy. This is a very basic version of the archetype because we don't know this guy, we don't know what his powers are, we don't really whatever. But none of that super matters because we understand the character through the context with very few details, I think. Barely a character, serves as a good placeholder. Um, good leader of the mob type guy. Gully we see with that dubious look on her face, like, ooh boy, I gotta exit stage left over here. She is feeling probably trapped in this thing because the Mr. Beautiful character wants revenge, and they're looking for spies and thieves constantly. They think that their ranks might have been infiltrated, so they want to kill the traitors like Weldon Sveta, etc. Or like you, any other given person who we might turn on. We don't really get nearly as much a vibe off Sanguine or Yellow Spike Boy, but they're mentioned, and we know them from previous scenes. Weld, he's a pile of scrap metal. Sveta, she's writhing around in a heated up ball. We are sad for them, but they do not get characterization this chapter. I guess Weld reaching out for Sveta is a little bit of characterization, but it's just your standard fare. The custodian, we really don't know her motivations. We don't know what Taylor said that got her to work for them. It's kind of funny because she kind of did the like throw everything at the wall thing with that, like Tattletale did to the Seamerg. I was actually thinking about that while I was sort of going over the chapter, is that because they don't know the motivation and there's no like body language feedback for Taylor and there's no Tattletale hints, then it's like Taylor just had the same kind of like weird experience of convincing a powerful ally that Tattletale did. And they're even both kind of wind themed. And I know that they are enacted differently, but the kind of way that the custodian attacks without being seen and, is hard to perceive is like the Seamerg's like telekinetic, there's no visual component to it kind of thing. I don't know. I think there's a lot of weird overlap. They both have those unknowable motivations. And then Lung, I think that the Lung stuff at the end of the chapter is really funny. I like that he's just like given up hope on the other people right away, but he's like, I will kill one person for you. I like Sophia's offer too. It's also like a funny escalation where like Sophia's like, I'm gonna bounce. I will tell people a message for you if I can remember. And then Lung's like, same type of deal, but I'll kill someone for you instead. um and then Canary's freaked out this whole time. Vic says Lung's deal is way better. Definitely. Um, but the only one who would want the deal, Sophia, is the one who isn't sacrificing herself, and thus the deal doesn't apply to. Oh, what a world. Nothing quite lines up. Let's see here. So, yeah, even though Canary's wearing power armor and theoretically very well defended, then Taylor's like, oh my god, that little wooby, she can't take care of herself. And she feels like she's very undefended. I think that's funny. And I mean, it's true that she doesn't have like good sense as a cape, but it does help to be wearing power armor. Golem, he's got his wits about him, and he's keeping, just like in Arc 26, he's keeping his morals here. He's like bringing stuff up. He's like talking about the amorality of Cauldron with Tattletale. He's not letting it go unsaid like Taylor would. And then, Cuff is here to be the secondary additional moral compass, and try to hold Taylor to account. Because, if Cuff is here, Taylor at least has to lie and put on a patina as though she was going to do the right thing, even if she was never going to do the right thing. Also, I mean, the right thing is, of course, debatable. There's all sorts of conversations of, like, at this point, is it better to, like, I mean, I would argue that at this moment with the choices they have, like, especially because their hands were forced with the prisoners being released suddenly, then Taylor really, like, by pursuing the Doctor and bringing the assets of Cauldron back into the fight against Scion, rather than releasing the prisoners who would, like, kind of rampage out of control and not really help the effort against Scion. You got to make moral compromises in this Scion battle. That's what Taylor's, trying to ride the line of course. We got Rachel, who very utilitarian, just moving around, quietly stalking through halls, clearing rooms like it's the bank robbery in Arc 3. And then I don't have much to say about Rachel character-wise in this. She's here. Aisha, she's kind of freaking out. Things are pretty tense. And even though she was invoking some sort of regentified affect for a minute, she, she's super useful. She is taking risks and goes to like spy on the Case 53s at a closer thing, and as reckless as it may be, desperate times do call for desperate measures. Vic says Taylor's forgetting how big of a dick Aisha was pre-trigger. Yeah, before she got her powers and kind of like sobered up, she was like, not like that she was, an alcoholic. I just mean like personality sobered. But before her personality muted a bit and she got serious, then everything she did seemed to be about like generating negative attention and people's ire. Vic says, it's not like her humor was perverted by Regent. Yeah. She was pretty much already like that. The reason that Taylor said that she was being Regent-ish was the revenge. Yeah, let me see here. This long delayed revenge thing is getting easier all the time. No revenge. Not to put too fine a point on it, but you're sounding a lot less like Imp and a whole lot like, well, Regent. I nodded. The desire for revenge. The way the wisecracking was veering off course to uncomfortable or dangerous levels. Yeah, I don't know. And then Vic says, such edgelords. Taylor doesn't even know that Regent did revenge for her. I think that I think that that's true, that she maybe, like, it's hinted to her that that is a thing, but that she never, like, delves into looking into it. She kind of takes Tattletale's word on things and doesn't ever fully avail herself to the details of Regent, taking over Shadowstalker after he was supposed to have released her. So, Tattletale. Tattletale's being mostly good and not as pessimistic here, because they're not directly talking about Scion. And, she's just classic Tattletale, adding a bit of backsass into giving us exposition. I don't have too much to say about her here. And then Taylor's mostly keeping it together. She got all pissed off in the cave, but now she's doing okay. She gets a little annoyed with the others when she thinks they're about to get closed in on and die, but she's keeping it together pretty well. She does feel a bit hopeless at several things and is like, oh, these Cauldron guys kind of seem like idiots. Maybe Legend was right and I am just going to be let down. They have no super secret final plan, which is pretty much true. But yeah, I don't have that much to say about Taylor's characterization this chapter. She's carrying through her readiness for violence from the previous chapter, and she's gonna to really go for it next chapter. I did want to say, for the powers, knowledge, and world building, I was just going to read out some of these Case 53 descriptions. A catman with far too many teeth in his mouth, even covering the roof and the space beneath his long, narrow tongue. Something that looked like keyboards on his forearms. A reptile, not so different from neuter, but with no mouth or nose. Only 2 overlarge eyes. The last was a girl, squares of flesh interspread with patches of cloth. Her mouth was only a tear in the cloth. And then this one is that she says no, different. The way they spread out, their haggard appearances, they made for the best clues when these individuals were just silhouettes seen from 300 feet away. But they got closer and I could see how they differed. They didn't take on traits of animals, nor simple mutations or exaggerations in features. There was a man that burned, who staggered forward like it hurt, but he wasn't consumed. A woman who floated, every part of her body a distinct piece, separated by open space. It made her look twice as tall, a something that inched forward, occasionally running to keep up with the crowd. Hands and feet like flippers, but the face was an orifice, and thin worms were spilling out, swarming over the surface of his body in numbers so thick that the flesh underneath was impossible to see. So, we got some really odd ones here. And I'm just gonna jump into the audience participation. I don't really have that much more about the powers, knowledge, and world building. We kind of have seen all of this before from like the complex, from the perspective of like Numberman and stuff. So we're mostly learning about like the specific case 53s who are here, deviant cases that escaped, and like the custodian and how she works a little more than we knew before. But we got a lot of details on most of those types of things when we were in the Numberman chapter. So the audience participation question is, what's your favorite Case 53 design from Worm specifically? And it looks like we have Greg says, I do love Sveta, her power, her style, the workaround she uses like the hamster ball, all compelling. Yeah, Sveta, the swarm of tentacles attached to a tiny human face. And her tentacles don't just move around normal tentacle style. Her power is actually like for her tentacles to sort of whip over and grab things at like unnaturally fast speed. Just, in addition to her having a powerful, crazy, like, I don't want to call it a squid body, because squid kind of implies like not that strong a limb, like I don't know, evil tentacle monster body, nice face. Pretty good design. Vic says, I can't say Sveta because her organs gross me out. Just a bunch of nutsacks behind her face. I'm sorry. Oh, Vic. Oh, Vic. She normally covers that with having so many tentacles that you can't see it. And then Vic had said, I like the dead one that's featured in this chapter with the cloth mouth. Reminds me of Raggedy Princess. Oh, yes. Thinking the same thing. What power could that possibly be, though? And then, Vic shared an Adventure Time clip, which I am going to play the audio of. I'm hoping it's just the little clip. Oh yeah, it's the little like 13-second clip.
Yeah. Raggedy Princess can make you a new Hambo in like 3 seconds. Or Raggedy Princess can be your new Hambo. She'd do it too. That girl's got like 0 self-respect. That's mean. Don't tell her I said that.
Oh my god, it's so good. That's just, I don't know. Princess Bubblegum is Tattletale. I love it. Vic says, I love this bit. That's mean. And then I feel like this was ad-libbed. Yeah, it really does seem like ad-libbed dialogue. I wouldn't be shocked if they wrote it in, though, because, like, it does fit the comedy style of the show already. But yeah, it's such a good line. Adventure Time writing is peak. Yes, it is. The tramp scene, yeah. Actually, I'm not even sure because there's a couple scenes that like I think there's like anyway, So, I have one that's like, I like this one even though I know that it's not the way that I thought it was, but from a few chapters forward, the way that Wildbow describes this parahuman, I thought it was one thing, and it turns out it was two. So he's describing two characters here, but in one paragraph and in a way that feels like it's all a description of one thing. So it's the paragraph is a mole man, comma, an extreme deviation case that seemed to be made up of lasers, comma, with her petrified body parts capping the ends, period. So that felt to me like she was like, she is a mole man, quotes, like, type, but really she was describing two different ones, a mole man and a laser thing. But I always thought it was a girl with like a laser mole nose that was like doing like, I don't know, I thought it was like a laser drill mole. I definitely thought laser mole. That's right, Vic. And I know from rereading it on subsequent reads that I just read it wrong the first time. But I kind of think it's better if it's like a laser mole. So, yes. That's my favorite case 53 from Worm. Even if it's not the altered version from my memory and it's just the girl made of lasers, I'm still thinking that's a pretty cool one. And shock of all shocks, the next question is more me joking about something that happened in this chapter, 29.5. What favor would you ask of Lon? Anyway, I should have already started up the outro music, probably. You know what? Let's skip into it a bit. We're gonna give us like this much speed draw, and then like this much music. Cool. Rock and roll. This is the outro part. The music you're hearing in this episode is Extinction by ScarlettXOX. You can find her at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. Our Discord server link, as well as the other links, can be found in the stream description, as well as the channel description. Greg says cheers for the stream, and Vic says bye. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.com or parahumans.wordpress.com. My mistake. And then there's also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. And then the other audiobook is at abaddonproductions.org. Both complete.